Hi friends, welcome to Sindhu English. இன்னைக்கு நம்ம சேனலில் MCQ கொஷின்ஸஸ் தான் பார்க்க போகிறோம். ஸோ இங்கிலீஷில் MCQ கொஷின்ஸஸ் டெஸ்ட் மாதிரி நாம் அப்போ அட்டன் பண்ண போகிறோம். ஸோ இப்போ ஃபுல்லாக நம்ம எல்லாருமே யூனிட் 1 ஆல்மோஸ்ட் கம்ப்ளீட் பண்ணி இருப்பீங்க. நான் ஏற்கனவே MCQஸ் கொஷின்ஸஸ் ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கிறதுக்காக கொடுத்தேன். பட் ஆனால் அதில் ஆன்சர்ஸ் கீழே இருக்குது, ஆன்சர்ஸ் இல்லாமல் இருந்தால் நல்லாயிருக்கும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஃபீல் பண்ணீங்க இல்லைங்களா? ஸோ அதுக்காக தான் இந்த முயற்சி. வாங்க யூனிட் 1ல இருக்கக்கூடிய 100 கொஸ்டின்ஸை நாம இப்போ பார்க்கலாம். ஸோ யூனிட் 1 இங்கிலீஷ் லிட்ரேச்சர் ஃப்ரம் 1400 to 1600. So first we are going to see the poetry, Geoffrey Chaucer's Prologue to the Canterbury Tales and the Book of Duchess. First question. What is the primary narrative style of the Prologue to the Canterbury Tales? What is the primary narrative style of the prologue to the Canterbury Tales? The answer is frame narrative. In the prologue, how many pilgrims are described as traveling to Canterbury? In the prologue, how many pilgrims are described as traveling to Canterbury? The answer is 29. Which character in the prologue is known for their love of hunting and fine food? Which character in the prologue is known for their love of hunting and fine food? The answer is the monk. In the Book of Duchess, what is the central theme of the poem? In the Book of Duchess, what is the central theme of the poem? The answer is mourning and loss. Mourning and loss. The man in black in the Book of Duchess generally thought to represent. The man in black in the Book of Duchess is generally thought to represent the John of Gaunt. Now we are going to see the poem Edmund Spenser's Prothalamion and Epithalamion. What is the primary occasion celebrated in Prothalamion? What is the primary occasion celebrated in Prothalamion? The answer is a double betrothal. Next, in Epithalamion, how many stanzas correspond to the hours of the wedding day? The answer, 24. Which river is prominently featured in Prothalamion? The Thames. What poetic form is Epithalamion written in? What poetic form is Epithalamion written in? Ode. அதாவது இப்போ சானட் அப்படின்னு எடுத்துக்கிட்டீங்க அப்படின்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா அதில் 14 லைன்ஸஸ் தான் இருக்கும். எலஜி அது இறந்தவர்களுக்காக பாடப்பட்ட பாடல். பேலட் அப்படின்னு எடுத்துக்கிட்டாங்கன்னா அதுவும் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா வாய்மொழி பாடல்களாக இருக்கும். ஸோ அப்போ எபித்தாலமியன் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஓடு அப்படின்னா என்னென்னா ஏதாவது ஒரு பர்டிகுலர் டாப்பிக்கை எடுத்து வச்சு பாடக்கூடிய பாடல், அதுதான் ஓடு. ஸோ இப்போ எபித்தாலமியனில் ஸ்பென்சர் அவருடைய ஓன் வெட்டிங்கை பற்றி அதில் சொல்லியிருப்பார். Spenser's use of mythological imagery in Prothalamion includes the references to. The answer is Venus and Muses. Next topic, Sir Thomas Wyatt Remembrance. What is the primary emotion expressed in Wyatt's Remembrance? What is the primary emotion expressed in Wyatt's Remembrance? The answer is nostalgia. Wyatt poetry is often credited with introducing which poetic form to England? Wyatt poetry is often credited with introducing which poetic form to England? The answer is sonnet. In remembrance, the speaker reflects on. In remembrance, the speaker reflects on the lost love. Wyatt's style in remembrance is heavily influenced by. Wyatt's style in remembrance is heavily influenced by Francisco Petrarch. The tone of remembrance can be described as. The tone of remembrance can be described as melancholy. Now we are going to see Francis Bacon essays. Of truth. In Of Truth, Bacon compares the truths to a pearl. In Of Truth, Bacon compares the truth to a pearl. In Of Friendship, Bacon argues that friendship doubles the joy and halves the sorrows. In Of Studies, Bacon suggests the studies serve for delight, ornament, and ability. In Of Adversity, Bacon states that adversity is like a fire that refines gold. In Of Revenge, Bacon advises against the revenge because it is chains a man to the past. In Of Revenge, Bacon advises against revenge because it chains the man to the past. In Of Ambition, Bacon describes ambition as. In Of Ambition, Bacon describes ambition as a dangerous passion. Bacon's essays are written in which style? Bacon's essays are written in which style? Concise and aphoristic. ரொம்ப ஷார்ட்டாகவும் இருக்கும், அதே போல் ரொம்ப மீனிங்ஃபுல்லாகவும் இருக்கும். Concise and aphoristic. Bacon's essay primarily reflect which philosophical approach? Bacon's essay primarily reflect which philosophical approach? Humanism. In Of Studies, Bacon warns against. In Of Studies, Bacon warns against studying without purpose. The intended audience of Bacon essays is. The intended audience of Bacon's essays is educated gentlemen. Now we are going to see Sir Philip Sidney, An Apology for Poetry. Sidney's An Apology Poetry is written in response to Puritan attacks on literature. Sidney's An Apology for Poetry is written in response to Puritan attacks on literature. Sidney argues that poetry is superior to. Sidney argues that poetry is superior to history and philosophy. According to Sidney, poetry's purpose is to instruct and delight. Sidney uses which term to describe the poet's creative power? Invention. An Apology for Poetry is written in which form? Treatise. Now we are going to see next topic, Bible, the Book of Job. The Book of Job is primarily concerned with the problem of human suffering. The Book of Job is primarily concerned with the problem of human suffering. Who challenges God to test Job's faith? Saturn. Job's response to his suffering is primarily acceptance. The book of Job is written in which literary form? The book of Job is written in which literary form? Poetic dialogue. The central message of the book of Job is God's ways are beyond the human understanding. God's ways are beyond the human understanding. Next we are going to see drama. Christopher Marlowe, Dr. Faustus. Dr. Faustus is an example of which type of play? Tragedy. Faustus sells his souls to Lucifer. ஸோ இதில் ஒரு பெரிய டவுட் வந்துடும். லூசிஃபர் வருமா மெஃபஸ்டோஃபில்ஸ் வந்துருவாங்களா அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு. ஏன்னா ஃபாஸ்டஸ் கூட ட்ராவல் பண்ணுறது ஃபுல்லாகவே மெஃபஸ்டோஃபில்ஸ் தான். ஆனால் இதில் வந்து ஃபர்ஸ்ட் யார்கிட்ட அவர் செல் பண்ணார்? லூசிஃபர் தான் வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா பிரின்ஸ் ஆஃப் த ஹெல். ஸோ அதனால லூசிஃபர் கிட்ட தான் அந்த அக்ரிமெண்ட் போடுவாங்க. ஸோ லூசிஃபருடைய அவங்க சொல்லி தான் மெஃபஸ்டோஃபில்ஸ் வருவாங்க. அவர் கூட ட்ராவல் பண்ணுங்க அப்படின்னு சொல்றது அவங்களுடைய ஆர்டர்ல தான், லூசிஃபருடைய ஆர்டர்ல தான். So, Faustus sells his souls to Lucifer. The play Dr. Faustus is heavily influenced by medieval morality plays. Faustus' primary motivation is power and knowledge. The final scene of Dr. Faustus depicts his damnation. Marlowe's use of blank verse in Dr. Faustus is notable for its rhythmic flexibility. The character of Mephistopheles serves as a tempter and a guide. The character of Mephistopheles serves as a tempter and guide. Faustus' pact with the devils lasts for 24 years. The play critiques which human flaw? The human flaw, that is hubris. Dr. Faustus is set in which historical period? Renaissance Germany. The next topic, Thomas Kyd, the Spanish tragedy. The Spanish tragedy is considered a precursor to which genre? The answer, revenge tragedy. The central figure seeking revenge in the Spanish tragedy is, இதில் யார் வந்து பார்த்தீங்க அப்படின்னா அதிகப்படியான கோவத்தை வெளிப்படுத்து? The central figure seeking revenge in the Spanish tragedy is Hieronymo. ஸோ இவர் தான் தன்னோட மகனை கொன்ன அத்தனை பேரையுமே வந்து மர்டர் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு பிளான் பண்ணுவார். அதனால தான் இவர் வந்து the central figure அப்படின்னு சொல்றாங்க. The play within a play in the Spanish tragedy is used to the enact revenge. Play within a play in the Spanish tragedy is used to enact revenge. The character of revenge in the Spanish tragedy. The character of revenge in the Spanish tragedy is a supernatural figure. The Spanish tragedy is notable for its complex soliloquies. The Spanish tragedy is notable for its complex soliloquies. The play's setting is primarily in Spain and Portugal. Hieronymus' descent into madness is triggered by the murder of his son. Hieronymus' descent into madness is triggered by the murder of his son. The Spanish tragedy influenced which later playwright? The Spanish tragedy influenced which later playwright? Answer is William Shakespeare. The play's tone is predominantly tragic. The Spanish tragedy employs which dramatic device? The Spanish tragedy employs which dramatic device? Deus ex machina, chorus, soliloquy, all the above. The answer is all of the above. The next topic, Ben Jonson's Every Man in His Humour. Every Man in His Humour is an example of comedy of humours. The humour in the play refers to psychological temperaments. The character Keitle is obsessed with. Jealousy. The setting of Every Man in His Humour is London. The setting of Every Man in His Humour is London. Jonson's play is notable for its realistic portrayal of urban life. The character Brainworm is trickster servant. The play's resolution involves marriage. Finally, பார்த்தீங்க அப்படின்னா பிரிகட்க்கும் அண்ட் நோபலுக்கும் மேரேஜ் நடக்கும். அந்த மாதிரி தான் அதில் முடிச்சிருப்பாங்க. The play's resolution involves marriage. Jonson's style in the play emphasizes satirical wit. The play critiques social pretensions. The play criticized the social pretensions. Every Man in His Humour was first performed by the Lord Chamberlain's men. Now we are going to see the general questions which covers all the questions. Which of the following authors was a contemporary of Queen Elizabeth I? Which of the following authors was a contemporary of Queen Elizabeth I? யார் அப்படிலாம் கேட்குறாங்க. Geoffrey Chaucer, Edmund Spenser, Francis Bacon, both B and C. The answer is D, both B and C. Edmund Spenser and Francis Bacon தான் சமகாலத்து புலவர்கள். The period 1400 to 1600 in English literature is often referred to as the Renaissance. Which work is considered a foundational text for English literature? Which work is considered a foundational text for English literature? The answer is the Canterbury Tales. The introduction of sonnet form to England is credited to Wyatt. So, முதல்ல sonnet இங்கிலீஷ்ல introduce பண்ணது யார் அப்படின்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா Wyatt. Which work reflects the influence of Protestant Reformation? Dr. Faustus. The concept of great chain of being is evident in Dr. Faustus. Which author is known for their use of blank verse? The answer is Marlowe. The Elizabethan stage was characterized by minimalist sets and flexible staging. Minimalist sets and flexible staging. Which work is an example of Elizabethan prose defense of literature? Which work is an example of Elizabethan prose defense of literature? The answer is An Apology for Poetry. The concept of humor in Renaissance literature refers to bodily fluids influencing personality. Which play features a character who sells their soul for knowledge? Dr. Faustus. The Book of Duchess is an example of dream vision. Bacon's essays are notable for their aphoristic style. The Spanish tragedy is known for its influence on. The Spanish tragedy is known for its influences on Shakespeare's Hamlet. Which work uses a river as a central symbol? Which work uses the river as a central symbol? The answer is Epithalamion. The primary language of the Canterbury Tales is Middle English. Marlowe's Dr. Faustus draws on which source? A German legend. Sidney's An Apology for Poetry argues that poetry creates a better reality. The Book of Job is a part of which section of the Bible? The wisdom literature. The Book of Job is a part of which section of the Bible? The wisdom literature. Which play features a character named Hieronimo? Which play features a character named Hieronimo? The answer is The Spanish Tragedy. Spenser's Protalamion celebrates a double betrothal. Wyatt's Remembrance is written in which form? Sonnet. Bacon's essay of adversity compares the adversity to a refining fire. The character of Mephistopheles in Dr. Faustus is a devil. The Spanish tragedy is notable for its violent revenge plot. Jonson's Every Man in His Humour is set in Elizabethan London. The Book of Duchess is written in Rhyme Royal. The Book of Duchess is written in Rhyme Royal. Sidney's An Apology for Poetry draws on which classical author? Sidney's An Apology for Poetry draws on which classical author? Aristotle, Plato, Horace. The answer is all of the above. The central theme of the Book of Job is divine justice. Marlowe's Dr. Faustus is an exploration of Renaissance humanism. The Spanish tragedy features a ghost named. Andrea. Bacon's essays are written in which language? English. Spenser's Epithalamion is written to celebrate. His own wedding. Wyatt's remembrance reflects the influence of Wyatt's remembrance reflects the influence of Petrarchan love poetry. The primary purpose of Sidney's An Apology for Poetry is to defend the poetry against its critics. The primary purpose of Sidney's An Apology for Poetry is to defend the poetry against its critics. Okay friends, I hope this video is useful to you. ஸோ இந்த வீடியோ பிடிச்சிருந்தா மறக்காமல் லைக் பண்ணுங்கள், ஷேர் பண்ணுங்கள், கமெண்ட் பண்ணுங்கள். நம்மளுடைய சேனலை ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டைம் பார்க்குறீங்க அப்படின்னா சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணிக்கோங்க. ஸோ ஒவ்வொரு யூனிட்டுக்குமே இதே மாதிரி 100 செட் ஆஃப் கொஷின்ஸஸ் இருக்கிற மாதிரி உங்களுக்கு நான் வீடியோஸஸ் கொடுத்துக்கிட்டே இருக்கிறேன். ஓகே ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ், தேங்க்யூ ஆல் தி பெஸ்ட்.